Chairman of the New Patriotic Party, Honorable Freddie Blay, members of the National Council, Honorable former Ministers of State and members of Parliament, Honorable members of Parliament, distinguished elders of our party, chiefs and traditional leaders, members of the diplomatic corps, national, regional, constituency and polling station executive, rank and file of the great Kukurudu family, representatives of political parties, members of the media, fellow Ghanaians, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. I am going to talk about some of the solutions that we have for our economic difficulty. But before I do that, I'm going to first elaborate the difficulty, because what is clear is that President John Dramani Mahama and the NDC are in total denial. Today, we are all witnessing to the fact that notwithstanding the record amount of resources at the disposal of the John Mahama-led NDC government, our economy is in trouble. Under 8 years of the NPP government, as we have kept saying, from 2001 to 2008, taxes and total loans amounted to just 20 billion Ghana cedis. In contrast, taxes, oil revenue, and loans alone under the 8-year period of the NDC would amount to 248 billion Ghana cedis. Notwithstanding all these resources at its disposal, our economy is in decline. Since 2011, real GDP growth has declined steadily and drastically from 14% with the onset of oil production to 3.9% in 2015. Projected GDP growth for 2016 is even lower. Basically, fellow Ghanaians, the economy, notwithstanding the production of oil, is on course to record a lower growth rate than in the year 2000, which was 3.7%. President Mahama's tenure of office has been characterized by declining economic growth. In fact, between 2012 and 2016, that is during President Mahama's tenure as president, the economy in dollar terms shrunk by 5%. Under the NPC, in the last 8 years, we have seen a growth in real GDP per capita by 17%, from $1,266 to $1,481. This is with oil revenue. Under John Mahama's tenure as president, however, per capita income in Ghana has declined by 12%. Under the NPP, GDP per capita recorded an increase of 187% in 8 years, from $440 US dollars to $1,266 US dollars without oil. This tells us that fundamentally, Ghana's problem is not about resources. Our problem is the efficient and honest management of our resources. The mass cocoa spraying program that we introduced when the NPP was in government has collapsed. Primarily for financial reasons, we've had to endure 5 years of doomsday. Electricity prices in Ghana, thanks to the high taxes and corrupt procurement of power generation, are now amongst the highest in the world. Total debt, Mr. Chairman, fellow Ghanaians, total debt of Ghana after 51 years of independence and at the time the NPP left office was just 9.5 billion Ghana cedis. Under the NDC, in just 7.5 years, it has increased from 9.5 billion Ghana cedis to 110 billion Ghana cedis. Mr. Chairman, 90% of Ghana's total debt has been accumulated in the last 7.5 years under the NDC government. And 67% of Ghana's total debt since independence has been accumulated in just the last 3.5 years. Under John Mahama, Ghana has now been classified as a country at the high risk of debt stress. Even though the government has borrowed close to $40 billion in the last 7.5 years, the value of total government investment in infrastructure is just about $7 billion. According to the managing director of the IMF, most of Ghana's borrowing under this John Mahama government has been spent on corruption, on consumption, rather than investment. After 8 years of mismanagement, the banking system has been pushed to dangerously fragile levels. 8 banks are currently on the verge of collapse. Teacher training allowances have been cancelled, and so have nursing training allowance. And nurses and health assistants are not being posted after completion. Drivers and transport operators have seen a dramatic rise in the cost of insurance, spare parts, license fees, DVLA charges, and fuel. Taxes on businesses have increased dramatically, and new taxes have been introduced as the government tries to fill the gap as a result of the massive increase in expenditure relative to revenue. For example, we've seen massive increases in the capital gains tax, in withholding taxes, VAT on electricity, financial services, real estate, special import levy, and taxes have also been introduced on ambulances and bicycles. The NHIS has virtually collapsed. The maternal care system has also collapsed. Youth unemployment is high and rising. For the first time in our history, we have a graduate unemployed associate. Mr. Chairman, fellow Ghanaians, our pensioners are under threat. Currently, the financial viability of the Social Security and National Insurance Trust, SNIT, is in question. The World Bank in its 2016 report on governance of SNIT states that, and I quote, the actuarial valuation shows that the fund becomes cash flow negative in 2019 and all assets will be used up by 2031. At this point, the benefits will have to match the inflows and will lead to very significant cuts in the benefits for current pensioners. This is the World Bank telling us that SNIT is collapsing and that will result in a cut in pension. Under this John Mahama-led NDC government, every development initiative or infrastructure project is seen as an opportunity to loot public funds. The money sourced through corruption from great loot and share schemes like SADA, DIDA, Bawumia, Waterville and other judgment debts, Smarties, Bus Brandon, Embraer, Car Power, AmeriPower, and the routine overpricing of contracts through sole sourcing are huge. Economic mismanagement and corruption has resulted in Ghana turning to the IMF for a bailout. Fellow Ghanaians, Ghana's sovereign credit rating has been downgraded from B+ positive. Without oil, Ghana was being rated as B+ positive. Under the NPP, we've now come down with oil under the NDC and John Mahama to B- with a stable outlook in 2016. So we've gone from B+ to B-. with oil. In fact, international credit ratings agencies like Moody's, Fitch, Standard & Poor's now have basically the same credit rating for Ghana. The recent revision of Ghana's outlook from B- negative to B- stable, that is the equivalent of B3 that Moody's has. The outlook was revised from negative to stable, has resulted in a misinterpretation by this NDC government and President Mahama that Ghana's credit rating has been upgraded. This is in fact not the case. Moody's did not upgrade Ghana. Ghana's rating under Moody's is still B-. It is only the outlook that has been revised, and that is not equivalent to a change in rating or a ratings upgrade. The outlook is not equivalent to an upgrade in the rating. Sometimes one wonders whether they don't read or they don't understand. So let me give Mr. President a free piece of advice. Mr. President, please desist from embarrassing yourself by stating that Moody's has upgraded Ghana. Your economic management team should explain the difference to you. The Mo Ibrahim 2016 report on governance shows that on virtually all key indicators such as safety and the rule of law, human rights, economic opportunities, infrastructure, was 10 years ago. The IMF, in its recent review of the Ghanaian economy, has warned that Ghana is on the cusp of a financial and economic crisis. Notwithstanding this abysmal record, President John Mahama is actually asking Ghanaians where the economic crisis is. He is clearly out of touch. Mr. President, the economic crisis is everywhere. Care to look outside of Flagstaff House, of course. Teachers are suffering. Teacher trainees are suffering. Nurses are suffering. And nursing trainees are suffering. Patients are suffering. Students are suffering. Traders are suffering. Pensioners are suffering. Drivers are suffering. Contractors are suffering. Civil servants are suffering. And farmers are suffering. Fishermen are suffering. And industries are suffering. Artisans are suffering. And Kayaye are suffering. The disabled are suffering. And men are suffering. Women are suffering. And children are suffering. And Ghanaians are suffering. Mismanagement, incompetence, and corruption. And this manifesto is going to provide solutions to this economic crisis. Fellow Ghanaians, the NPP's overall vision for Ghana in this century is the creation of an optimistic, self-confident, and prosperous nation through the creative exploitation of our core competencies and operating within the democratic, open and fair society in which mutual trust and opportunities exist for all. Our goal for the economy is simple, and our policy advisor stated it very clear, and I repeat it here. Our goal for the economy is simple. We are going to build the most people-friendly and the most business-friendly economy on the face of Africa. An economy that will create jobs and prosperity for all Ghanaians. Our policies will result in a real transformation of the economy and not the propaganda transformation being touted by President John Mahama and the NPP while we are all suffering. The NPP will restore and maintain macroeconomic stability. This is very, very important, and we will do this through the pursuit of sound policies in the context of an enhanced institutional framework to underpin macroeconomic stability. Macroeconomic stability is built around three pillars. You have monetary discipline, fiscal discipline, and financial stability. To reinforce monetary discipline, the Bank of Ghana Act of 2002 established the Monetary Policy Committee to guide the implementation of monetary policy. The two other pillars, fiscal discipline and financial stability, have no such institutional anchor. An NPP government, inshallah, under Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, will rectify this. But the International Monetary Fund recently insisted that the NDC government passes the Public Financial Management Act. However, this law is woefully inadequate because it lacks the key elements that will protect the public affairs from abuse. Fiscal policy implementation, as it stands now in Ghana, lacks three basic elements: absence of a transparent framework or institutional arrangements for providing quality fiscal information to the public, absence of an accountability mechanism that ensures that the officialdom is held accountable in implementing optimal fiscal policies to guarantee the stability of the system, and absence of a well set up institution to ensure the credibility of fiscal projections provided by the government. To address this problem, fellow Ghanaians, to address the problem of current high levels of public debt and the risk of the country relapsing into the hippie category again, an NPP government will adopt and implement rules that anchor fiscal policy implementation. In this regard, an NPP government will pass a fiscal responsibility law to bring in comprehensiveness, accountability, transparency, and stability to the entire budgeting process. In this context, a fiscal council will be set up with appropriate legal backing to contribute to the accountability of government. Similar to the fiscal council, we will set up a financial stability council to bring to bear what they're going to do in the fiscal area, in the area of financial stability. Because as we stand today, our financial system is in crisis and 8 banks are on the verge of collapse. So we are going to set up a financial stability council, and so when we set up a financial stability council along with the fiscal council, then the 3 legs of macroeconomic stability will be institutionally grounded: monetary discipline, fiscal discipline, and financial sector stability. We'll bring these 2 together and we'll move the economy forward. In addition, the NPP will undertake financial sector reform and deepen our financial markets, promote financial inclusion, and enhance supervision and regulation of financial institutions, as well as move Ghana from cash towards an electronic payments-based economy. We will formalize the economy through the establishment of a national database using the National Identification System as the primary identifier, and that will have linkages and databases such as the police, the National Health Insurance, Passport, Immigration Courts, Ghana Revenue Authority, PDLA. In fact, the NPP government will issue national ID cards in our first year in office. Fellow Ghanaians, the mismanagement of the economy under this John Mahama-led government has resulted in an increase in taxes on virtually everything taxable. Taxes were even imposed on condoms and cutlass. This has increased the burden on the private sector and is a disincentive to production. To address these challenges, the NPP will shift the focus of economic policy away from taxation to production. So we are going to move away from taxation to production. From taxation to production. And we are going to do this by reducing the corporate tax rate from 25% to 20%. We are going to remove import duties on raw materials and machinery for production within the context of the ECOWAS Common External Tariff. We will eliminate the special import levy, and we will abolish the 17.5% VAT on imported medicines that are not produced in Ghana. We will abolish the 17.5% VAT on financial services, and we will abolish the VAT on real estate sales. We will also abolish the 17.5% VAT on domestic airline tickets, and we will review the withholding taxes that have been imposed on various sectors that have constrained their liquidity and working capital, including the mining sector. We will introduce tax incentives for businesses that hire fresh graduates from school. And we are going to reduce the VAT for micro and small enterprises from the 17.5% to 3% flat rate VAT introduced. It used to be 3% under the NPP when President Kufuor was in government. They've increased it to 17.5, and we are seeing the harmful effect. We are bringing it back down to 3%. Mr. Chairman, the Kaya are also being taxed under Mohammed's government. They are made to pay market tolls under the next NPP government. We are going to abolish the taxes on the Kaya in this country. The ensuing increase in production and economic growth arising from streamlining all these taxes between 2001 and 2008. Corporate taxes were slashed from 32% to 25%, and tax revenue actually went up. Additional sources of higher revenue or fiscal space finance these tax reductions will be the broadening of the tax base as a result of the formalization of the economy, increased tax compliance, and reduced government expenditure as a result of increased collaboration with the private sector. We will also see a reduction in interest rates based on Ghana's debt stock. We'll see an increase in oil and gas revenues from the TEN and Sankofa fields. We will see the elimination of corruption, especially in the procurement of goods and services, which is estimated at some 1.5% of GDP annually. Collectively, all these measures will more than exceed any revenue shortfall from the reduction in tax. Now we look at the private sector. Mr. Chairman, fellow Ghanaians, for the most part, the next NPP government will work in collaboration with the private sector. Jobs will be primarily created by the private sector and not government. With the necessary incentives, the private sector is prepared to undertake many of the expenditures that government is currently undertaking. We will encourage the private sector to do so. We will create the fiscal space, government to reduce borrowing and therefore reduce interest rates. Mr. Chairman, the NPP will not pay lip service to the private sector as the driver of economic growth, as the IDC government has been doing. You cannot believe in the private sector as a driver of growth if you refuse to pay contractors for years after they have executed their contract. Some contractors are penalized deliberately for supposed political affiliation. Some contractors have to pay bribes to receive payment for works they have executed. An NPP government will be a government for all the private sector, regardless of apparent or perceived political party affiliation. We want to create jobs, and it does not matter whether it is a CPP, PPP, NDC, NDP, or PNC, businessman or woman who is creating the jobs. You are all welcome in an NPP government. The NPP believes in empowering the local private sector. We will pass legislation that requires that at least 70% of all taxpayer-financed contracts and procurements should be executed by local corporate entities. In addition, the NPP will introduce a policy requiring that at least 30% of the required 70% as far as possible be sourced from entities owned by the youth, women, and people living with disability. Under the Mahama-led government, Mr. Chairman, the quality of service delivery across all levels has broken down. Ordinary Ghanaians encounter deep frustration and needless obstacles in attempting to access public services from government agencies and institutions, including acquiring birth certificates, driver's licenses, passports, registering businesses, processing pension payments, processing payrolls for new teachers and nurses, doctors and police officers, and land registration. The NPP believes that the purpose of government is to help improve our lives, that of our families and our community. An efficient government machinery, an inefficient government machinery defeats this purpose, no matter the investment government allegedly makes in infrastructure. In this direction, in addition to managing the economy competently, the NPP will immediately deploy resources, both in equipment and personnel, in fixing the basics of the government machinery in order to deliver standardized services at affordable, transparent prices, faster turnaround times, and with professional handling of exceptions and grievances. Mr. Chairman, in the area of pensions, the NPP will undertake an urgent and comprehensive review of SNIT's investments and costs to ensure its financial sustainability. Furthermore, the NPP will adopt as a vital element of its poverty eradication and social support program for the vulnerable in our society a retirement income scheme for farmers as well as members of small and small-scale business associations such as the GPRTU and the ProTour. Furthermore, we will ensure that the funds of the National Pensions Regulatory Authority are applied solely for the purpose of development of pension, and we will fully implement Section 103 of the Pensions Act, which assigns pension benefits for housing of workers. We will pay all outstanding contributions to the pension funds, including Tier 2 contributions for public sector workers. Mr. Chairman, fellow Ghanaians, The challenges of development and poverty in Ghana should not be a matter of geographical location. Around Ghana, there are millions who face poverty and deprivation daily and who need urgent, deliberate interventions from the state to improve their lives and circumstances. An NPP government will aggressively pursue policies that will be targeted at particular segments of our population who continue to be excluded and who miss out on the myriad of opportunities that abound, not only in Ghana, but in the globalized world. We have seven major initiatives designed to take giant leaps in transforming Ghana holistically, with particular emphasis on rural and deprived communities in a major effort at inclusive development of all parts of Ghana and by adopting a localized development approach. On the Savannah Accelerated Development Authority, Mr. Chairman, the NDC in 2008 promised to take immediate and urgent steps to bridge the development gap between the North and the South through the setting up of SADA, and to be directly under the President with a vision and mandate to accelerate socio-economic development of the Savannah Belt of Northern Ghana. They promised to establish a special fund for SADA and pledged an initial startup contribution to the fund of 200 million Ghana cedis with additional annual contribution of 100 million each year for 20 years. The NDC also promised that once SADA was established, the government of Ghana will lead a donor conference on Northern Ghana with the aim of raising an additional 200 million from Ghana development partners and the private sector in order to assure the new authority a firm and solid foundation. And the manifesto promise of the NDC, Ghana should have had at least 1 billion cedis allocated from Ghana, from the government of Ghana to it by now, in addition to other funds that were to be sourced from development partners and the private sector. However, Mr. Chairman, according to the 2012 manifesto of the NDC, 260 million Ghana cedis had been allocated to SADA by 2012. In 2013 and 2014 budgets, 20 million Ghana cedis were allocated to SADA a year, while there was no mention of SADA in the 2016 budget. This means that a total of 300 million Ghana cedis has been allocated to SADA as at 2016. Compared to the promised 1 billion. Not only has the Mahama government refused to make the resources available, they have also supervised and led the thievery of the 300 million allocated to SADA. The 300 million Ghana cedis was virtually pilfered into private pockets. Since 2012, SADA has hardly received funds from the government for capital projects. This contravenes the SADA Act of 2010, which enjoins government to make annual budgetary contributions. Also, 6 years after the passage of the SADA law, the provision that stipulates that taxes on petroleum imports to help ensure sustainable funding of SADA is yet to be implemented. Mr. Chairman, we all know about the guinea fowls and the tree plants. SADA has basically become a great loot and share scheme. What is surprising, however, is that the NDC's 2016 manifesto basically promises to replicate the failed SADA experiment in other parts of the country. Our solution is different. We will restructure SADA and transform it into a more focused Northern Development Authority as originally envisaged, and make it a flagship program for the economic transformation of the three northern regions. There will be a presidential-led support for genuine entrepreneurship development in northern Ghana. Industrialists, entrepreneurs, manufacturers, food processors, marketers, and so on will witness a new dawn of government support in northern Ghana. But we are not only going to deal with the northern region. All the three parts, the northern, the middle belt, and the coastal regions of Ghana need support. So, like the other development, like the SADA, the NPP is going to establish the Middle Belt Development Authority, which will serve as the main development agency for the middle belt of the country, in particular the northern Volta, western regions, the proposed western north region, in addition to Ashanti, eastern, and Brahma regions. The coastal regions will not be left out. The NPP will establish a Coastal Development Authority, which will serve as the principal development agent along the coastal communities of Ghana, covering the coastal areas of the Volta, western region, Volta, and western regions, in addition to the Greater Accra and Central region. Again, it will be like SADA, it will be like the Middle Belt Development Authority. We also note that the rural areas of Ghana continue to be neglected, and the poverty levels in our rural areas are very high. The capital expenditure budget has historically been skewed more towards the urban areas than the rural areas. The NPP is going to reorient the national capital expenditure budget, place a focus on rural and deprived communities. In this vein, we are going to implement an infrastructure for poverty eradication project. And this infrastructure for poverty eradication, and this will take an amount equivalent to $275 million to be reallocated. And the idea is to have local solutions to local problems. Every constituency in Ghana, every constituency can expect on average to be allocated $1 million annually from the capital budget. This is equivalent to 4 million Ghana cedis or 40 billion old cedis. Every constituency will get this annually. We'll reallocate expenditure to the rural areas, and these resources will be used for capital expenditure to upgrade and improve infrastructure such as water, toilets, dams, ICT community centers, and so on, or to develop new facilities in rural and deprived communities. Our One Village, One Dam initiative in the three northern regions, for example, our One Village, One Dam initiative in the three northern regions, for example, will be funded under this program. In fact, Mr. Chairman, in the first 2 years of an NPP administration, under this infrastructure for poverty eradication program, where every constituency will get $1 million every year for rural and deprived communities, under this program, there should be no village or community. Once we implement this, the first 2 years, we will make sure we will not have a water problem or a toilet problem, by the grace of Allah. It is important to note that the program is not going to require new money. Rather, we are going to allocate existing money towards our key priority, which is the eradication of poverty. Where are you going to get the money? The money is already there. If you stop stealing the money, you will lose the money. That we are going to establish a Zongo Development Fund. The fund is designed to help regenerate and revive our Zongos. Residents in the mostly densely populated Zongos are impacted by business activities, social conditions, and effluents that are unique and which require special attention. Over the years, however, These communities have been left behind in development planning. Residents and their needs have been poorly identified, leading to inadequate and sometimes inappropriate intervention in the social services and physical infrastructure. Zongos are vibrant places. They are communities with opportunities in local culture, specialty foods, and tourism that, if properly invested in and harnessed, can create jobs and economic growth at the community level. Our Zongo Development Fund is aimed at regenerating and reviving these communities, and the fund will invest in education and training and development within the Zongos, improved infrastructure in the Zongos, targeting health, sanitation, supporting local businesses and centers of culture and arts, and in community equality and security. Mr. Chairman, following the appropriate constitutional procedures, we propose to create a Western North region out of the existing Western region in order to open it up for development. The northern part of the Western region is resource rich but has not fully reached its economic and job creation potential for a long time. There's a strong economic case for creating a Western North region. Furthermore, Mr. Chairman, with regard to our mining community, with regard to mineral royalties, the NPP will make sure that mining communities receive a higher share. Currently, 80% of the royalty goes to government, 10% to the Mineral Commission, and 10% to the community. The NPP will reduce the government share to 70% while doubling the community share to 20%. The additional 10% to the community will be given to the assemblies to be used specifically for infrastructure in the mining community. This will ensure more value is retained in mining communities for development. Together, these 7 initiatives will be directed at implementing key decentralized action plans to tap the enormous resources available for every part of the country. No part of the country is going to be left behind under these initiatives. This is why we say equal opportunities for all. In addition, Mr. Chairman, fellow Ghanaians, I will like to state that Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo has given his commitment that under an NPP government, teacher training allowances will be fully restored. And in addition, nursing training allowances will be fully restored. The recent about 10 by the President Mahama on the issue of teacher and nursing training allowances is purely an election year gimmick, which should be treated with the contempt it deserves. At this stage of the electoral cycle, President Mahama will say anything to get re-elected. Fellow Ghanaians, what the MPP is going to build with some of the policies that I have just outlined in this manifesto, and more of the policies that my colleagues are going to come up and outline. What the MPP is going to build with these policies is going to be a new economy. An economy that will grow and create jobs, prosperity, as well as offer equal opportunities of all. The future under the MPP, under the leadership of Nana Addo Dankwa